All right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith, here alone for a solo interview episode. Sitting here watching the Toronto Raptors take their very, very long championship parade. What a wild world we live in. Feels like the NBA is upside down. Turns out the Warriors did not ruin basketball last summer. We have a new champ, and we have a wide open title race because of those unfortunate injuries to Durant and Klay Thompson. Perhaps sparked by that, perhaps just consummating a months-long courtship. The Los Angeles Lakers traded for Anthony Davis. The return for the Pelicans seemed pretty good. And then when the news of all the pick swaps, or the pick swap, and then the reverse protected pick in 2021, where the Pelicans only take it if it's top 8. When we found out all the details of that draft, it feels like a very big gamble, which seems very strange when talking about receiving Anthony Davis. So I kind of feel like the Lakers really screwed this up, though they might be good this season. The future is very precarious. David Griffin owns their future, and he has shorted it. He is betting against the Lakers being a long-term power, and it's going to be hard. So all that stuff happening as a prelude to the NBA draft, which is Thursday. So today's episode, we have Cole Zwicker on, the excellent Cole Zwicker on, to talk about this week's NBA draft. And then, friend of the program, Daman Rangoola, is going to come on from a Lakers perspective for what the big Anthony Davis trade meant to the Lakers and how he feels about it. Speaking of the draft, if you're anywhere near Nashville, Tennessee, we are hosting a NBA draft watch party. It is a Grizzlies-themed watch party. It is sponsored by the Memphis Grizzlies, but you do not need to be a Grizzlies fan to come. I already got an RSVP from a Bucks fan. I'm hoping to have another Sixers fan coming. If you're just an NBA fan, you need to come out on Thursday to the Mainstay. We will be there starting at 6 p.m. at the Mainstay. We're going to be giving out Memphis Grizzlies prizes until 9 p.m. Your first drink is absolutely free, courtesy of Fast Break Breakfast. We'll buy your first drink. So come to the Mainstay in East Nashville on Thursday, this Thursday, June 19, June 20th at 6 p.m. John and Chuck and myself will be there watching the NBA draft. Also want to tell you guys, our TeePublic shirts go on sale on Wednesday, June 19th. So if you've checked out the new John Wick NBA logo shirts, or you haven't gotten your Boban NBA logo, or just a regular old Fast Break Breakfast logo, we got all kinds of good shirts on there, and those will all be 35% off on Wednesday. That's at TeePublic, TeePublic.com/user/fastbreakbreakfast. All of our merch will be 35% off starting on Wednesday. So check that out, TeePublic.com/user/fastbreakbreakfast. And make sure you come to our watch party in Nashville for the draft on Thursday at 6 p.m. All right, let's talk to Cole, and remember to stick around after the draft talk to get it on with Lakers buddy Daman Rangoola. My guest today is a draft analyst for The Stepien. You can frequently hear him on the Game Theory podcast. And he's a return guest on Fast Break Breakfast, Cole Zwicker. Cole, how's it going?
It's going well, man. It's a fun time of year, getting down to the final stages for the draft, and nobody knows what the hell's going to happen, so that's always intriguing.
Well, we know some things that are going to happen, right?
I think we know 3 picks that are going to happen, and then everything goes off the deep end as far as the order, and we kind of a general idea of maybe the top 8, 9 prospects on the board, but it can fall, a plethora of different ways with trades and whatnot.
So are the 3 picks we know Zion, and then Ja Morant to the Grizzlies, and RJ Barrett to the Knicks?
That seems to be the consensus. I feel pretty good about the first 2. Maybe the Knicks end up trading 3, but I do feel like if they stay at 3, they're going to take RJ.
Okay. All right, so before we get any more into it, it is Monday of draft week. It's early West Coast time. Have you had breakfast? What's your Monday morning draft week breakfast, Cole?
I'm going to disappoint a little bit here. I have a huge container of coffee that I'm drinking, and I had an apple. So that's it.
Is that your coffee for the week? Did you go ahead and just brew it all up? Keep it in the fridge, a little cold brew, Nick Van Exel style, some iced coffee.
I do have some cold brew there, but okay. That's probably for later today when I have to do another couple podcasts and I got to get rejuvenated.
So we'll get to the top of the draft. I did want to tell our listeners, you don't often tell people because you're pretty modest, but you actually told Masai Ujiri to draft Pascal Siakam. A lot of people don't know that, but I consistently hear that. So that's what you need to know about Cole Zwicker. Anyway, so draft is in 4 days. I don't know anything about the draft other than those three names. And honestly, when I was talking to you and I said Knicks at 3, I got nervous that I was going to say RJ Barrett wrong because I knowing who RJ Barrett and Cam Reddish is, I'm not sure. I couldn't pick him out of a lineup. So 4 days to go. What do I need to know? What are the broad strokes beyond those top 3 picks?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be 8 or 9 guys that are first 9 picks. So outside of RJ Barrett, I think you're going to see Jarrett Culver, DeAndre Hunter, Darius Garland, Kobe White, and Cam Reddish off the board in those next 4 through 8 slots in some order. We might get a little bit of a mix-up with a Jackson Hayes, the center out of Texas, coming up, but I doubt he comes into play outside of number 9, Sekou Doumbouya. Of course, the international prospect playing in France right now. He can come off the board at 9, but I do feel pretty confident, at least relatively so, that it's going to be those first 8 guys in some order. We know the first 3, and then it's going to be mix and match because the Pelicans, of course, just acquired number 4. We don't really know what they're going to do. They could trade that pick as well.
So the remedial stuff. Zion Williamson going to be this first pick. He's going to be locked into that first pick for a while now. How do you project him coming in this season? Are we thinking like Blake Griffin rookie season where he's maybe putting up close to 20 and 10? Is there going to be more of a learning curve? What do you see him doing first year?
It's more akin to Blake Griffin. I think he's going to be an immediate impact guy. He's going to be a top 50, top 40 player once he steps on the floor. He's just that functionally athletic. His motor is incredible. Like, he cares so much about the game, and he cares about like trying hard. And that might sound like grandiose to say about someone like that and not a big deal, but honestly, it kind of is. Like, this guy he just really gives a shit on the floor. So I think you're going to see that functional athleticism play out. His handle, he's incredible in transition. Playing with Lonzo, getting out in the break on leak outs, I think he's going to be devastating there. And then defensively, weak side rim protector. If he's playing as a backline defender and a rotation guy, he can really cover ground. He's got incredible burst acceleration, and then of course has that 99th percentile explosion off the ground, so quick off the ground. So I think he steps in, he's producing across the board. You're going to see a lot in transition. I don't know if you're going to see him used as the screener right from the off. I think he can definitely play that role. But if they can space the floor in New Orleans, which is kind of a question mark right now, you're going to see his dribble drive game as well as space up game, ability to get to the rim that way.
Well, so New Orleans, they're going to get Zion. They won huge in the lottery. And it's wild also to me to think that this is a team, the Pelicans last year, I don't know what their preseason over and under was. It was like 50 or something because they were just coming off that sweep of the Blazers. They come into this season expecting playoffs, thinking pretty good things, and it doesn't go their way. However, now they have the first and the 4th picks. It's just an unbelievably kind of fortuitous bounce, even though you lose Anthony Davis to end up with these top picks. So looking at this haul they got from the Lakers in the big trade on Saturday, one, they got all these future picks, which is kind of incredible, but they got this 4th pick in this year's draft, and all the reporting seems to be they're eager maybe to move that for veteran help. Why do you think, though, they don't actually want that draft pick? Why wouldn't they want to be like, okay, we have Lonzo Ball, we have Zion Williamson, let's get another young guy. We have Drew Holiday, but like if we can pair up a couple of young guys and then build on that timeline, like why do you think that isn't as favorable to David Griffin as far as wanting to trade that away?
Yeah, I think it's twofold. I think one, you look at how the boards fall, and there's not like a really obvious selection for them that fits their roster. They really need shooting. They really need guys who can play off the ball at a high level. And at that point in the draft, you have a guy like Jarrett Culver, who I really like. He's kind of a utility Swiss Army knife. He can do a little bit of everything, but he's not like a high-level floor spacer. Darius Garland plays a guard spot. You're really going to play him next to Lonzo, next to Drew Holiday. Kobe White, same thing. Those guys are more – they're point guard-esque players, even though they're more combo guards, don't really fit great on that roster. So I think you look at just how the board's fallen, and there's not a lot of obvious fits. And I think the other part that Griffin's probably going to address is the fact that he wants to create like a competitive environment right away. He wants to, put like a respectable team around Zion and kind of build that way. Of course, that happened to the previous New Orleans regime. They wanted to put more ready-made players next to Anthony Davis. I think Griffin's way too smart to really sell out that way, but I do think he wants to foster that competitive environment and don't have a system where, Zion's losing a bunch every night and that gets instilled in his head. I think he's going to try to address that.
Yeah, I'm extremely excited about this Lonzo Drew pairing, and then with Zion if he does live up to the hype. But is there a veteran out there that you think makes sense with the 4 pick? I feel like that's been the big issue, is trying to come up with a theoretical draft partner. Now trying to find I guess it's a wing. Like you want a shooter, maybe a 2-3, maybe a 3-4 or something to come in. Like, have there been any trades or rumored trades you've heard that make sense?
Well, I think Bradley Beal's the obvious one as far as if they have the capital. I think if Washington's really, hell-bent on trading him and really rebuilding, and they feel like that's the best offer they can get, I do think that New Orleans has the capital there, and that he would just make a ton of sense on that roster as far as ability to space the floor. I don't know if you start him with Drew Holiday, with Lonzo Ball. I don't think it matters. You acquire the best player. So if they want to put a more NBA-ready guy who can definitely play off Zion, offers that shooting, that secondary ball handling, Bradley Beal's the pretty obvious choice for me.
Yeah, how many picks do you think it takes of that haul they got from the Lakers? Because I assume if the Wizards are going to trade Bradley Beal and not have a team also take on John Wall, it would need to be more than just the 4 pick and maybe even just one more.
Yeah, I think you probably have to deal probably at least one future first that you got from the Lakers, maybe one of your own plus number 4. I don't know exactly. It's hard to – what's the market for Bradley Beal? Like what's he getting in as far as dealing him into cap space if a team in July is interested? So that's tough. But I do think that the Pelicans have the firepower to get a deal done. The question is the price, of course, and how much they're willing to pay.
Yeah, they have that. So they have the unprotected picks from the Lakers, the unprotected swap, and then they have the pick deferment where they get the unprotected 2024 pick. Or if they don't want it, they can decide to take it in 2025. Have you ever heard of a pick deferment? Have we had that before in the NBA?
We have. I can't remember right now who the last team was. I think it involved Dallas, but it's very rare. We rarely see that. You only see that attached to. No, sorry. There was also, I think it was in the Boston-Brooklyn deal as well. I think there was one deferment there as far as that trade went. But yeah, it is rare just because, again, you're not going to surrender that right. But as you can see in this deal, the Lakers surrendered a lot with pick swaps and, the unprotected and potentially in 2022, that 2021 pick was actually reverse protected. Yeah. So it was a very, very good deal for New Orleans.
Yeah, the reverse protections, all those unprotected things. I don't know. I feel almost sad that David Griffin did these things to Rob Pelinka, and Rob Pelinka just didn't understand. I'm a little worried that pick deferment, the date on that when we find the details, it's maybe the Pelicans get to watch the draft lottery and then decide. I'm worried the Lakers are going to get really, really screwed down the line with these picks. So you mentioned Brad Beal as maybe being available. I'm a Memphis Grizzlies fan, and so they've been penciled in for Ja Morant. But part of me, I'm reading all this stuff on the draft, and some people don't think Morant is going to be necessarily a shoe-in all-star or a high-level player. I saw someone maybe mention maybe Jeff Teague is an okay high-level comp, and I was like, oh, that doesn't sound awesome. And if a guy like Brad Beal was available, if Mike Conley decided you want to play, I'm like, oh, well, does the 2 pick and whatever else would it take, to bring in a Brad Beal? So my question is, should the Grizzlies definitely take Ja Morant, or should they consider an RJ Barrett or a Culver because of the positional scarcity of having a wing maybe seems more important? If Mike Conley told you he was going to stay if you took another guy, should they do that? Or should they just kind of take Ja Morant if he's the best available guy?
Yeah, I think they should take Ja if they're there. I'm not someone who thinks Ja's in a separate tier. I have, four guys in that second tier, but I do think Ja is the most realistic, realizable upside guy, especially on that roster when you already have Jaren. Jaren's really going to help him on both sides of the floor as far as Jaren's help defense and then his pick and pop ability, opening up the lane for Ja on that end. So if they do keep the pick, I think it should be Ja. But if they end up trading the pick, I've been team trade down in this draft or trade out if you don't have one. Not that these players can't be good. I just don't know if they're certain to be good. Like you said, I don't know if Jaw's a surefire all-star, and that's pretty typical as far as this range goes. You don't have a lot of certainty. It's not like last year where there was just an incredible talent at the top of the draft. So it's something to entertain. If the Grizzlies could move down a couple spots, pick up a future first. I don't know if I'd trade it for Brad Beal. Obviously, he would help short term. I don't know if he aligns perfectly with Jaren's trajectory as far as his prime, but it's definitely something to explore. I would definitely, shop the pick and see what the value is.
Yeah, I remember looking, again, just when I started my very, very remedial draft prep, like clicking on, because I feel like at this time, like maybe a few weeks ago, Cam Reddish was even higher. And I started clicking on like RJ Barrett's stats and Cam Reddish's stats, thinking like, man, just a 2 or a 3, any kind of wing would be great. And I think I saw like RJ Barrett's free throw percentage was really low. And then I saw Cam Reddish's shooting percentages. No one told me. I was like, whoa, this guy shot, 36% in college? How does someone do that? So looking down later down the draft, so we assume probably the Knicks are taking RJ Barrett. We don't know what's going to happen. It does seem like, and again, the confusion over when the trade with the Lakers and the Pelicans actually goes down, it seems like Culver maybe is going to get taken for the Pelicans, I guess, unless someone else swoops in. So the Cavs are at 5. What options do you see for the Cavs, and what do you think they might do?
I mean, we've heard Darius Garland, the combo guard out of Vanderbilt. That's kind of duplicative with Colin Sexton as far as just drafting that same kind of player last year. Obviously, there's some differences. Garland's a much better shooter, and I'm for that. If they think he's the best player on the board, I don't think Colin Sexton philosophically is good enough to build or to draft around. So I'd be in support of that. But it's kind of a tough look when you take 2 combo guards 2 straight years, trying to create maybe this CJ Dame dynamic, and I don't think either player is as good as those counterparts. So you could see Garland, you could see DeAndre Hunter, like he's viewed as like a safer pick. The wing, of course, out of Virginia, more of a combo forward. More of a safe selection again. He's a very good technical defender, has a 7'2" wingspan, great footwork, good at switching in space. In offensively, he's more of a tertiary ball handler, in my opinion, as far as you want him mostly in that 3-and-D role, spacing the floor. But maybe they do feel like he has a little bit of untapped creation upside. So I think it's going to be one of those 2 guys. We've heard Cam Reddish potentially in that range, but I think he's the fall guy a little bit. So to me, it's going to be between Garland and Hunter at 5.
Yeah, when I hear about Garland, he reminds me of, again, these are just the adjectives that are used. He reminds me of Brandon Knight. I'm like, oh, is he Brandon Knight? Like, pull up kind of the same, like the couple clips I saw, same body size. And we already saw the Brandon Knight on the Cavs next to, obviously Brandon Knight is a shell of what he maybe once was. The Bulls are interesting because I feel like they, were initially rumored maybe trying to get their hands on Lonzo Ball as part of like a 3-way deal. Do you think the Bulls are maybe going to take that point guard in like a Kobe White, or will they maybe be active, try to get involved with the Pelicans, try to work out some kind of trade there to get up and get like Culver?
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think they might, if they want a point guard or if they want Culver, they might have to move up just the way the board's falling right now. If Garland ends up going 5, and assuming Culver goes 4, that could definitely deviate. Culver could fall a little bit. But Phoenix being there at 6 and having similar positional need, I think that you might see Kobe White go there. We've heard that Phoenix was actually the team that maybe even promised Kobe White in the draft. So it's tough for the Bulls. I mean, the way the board breaks, they could be looking at Reddish, Hunter, someone to that effect, and they're not going to have their choice between the point guards. So if they really want Culver, Garland, or Kobe White, they might have to move up a couple spots.
Right, so that the 6, 7, and 8 picks are all very interesting because you have the Suns at 6, you have the Bulls at 7, then you have the Hawks who have 8 and 10. All those teams could be trading on draft night. And I guess the motivations of each of those teams is a little bit different. You have the Suns who seem to constantly be in this, we want to be good, even though we maybe shouldn't be good. And then the Bulls who have, a little bit of a collection of young talent with the front court of Wendell Carter Jr. and Lauri Markkanen and Zach LaVine, who had a pretty decent year last year. And then the Hawks, where they are just optimistic, like a team on the right trajectory with Trae Young coming off Trae Young's great rookie year. John Collins was pretty solid last year. So of those teams, like, if you were running those teams, are there veterans out there that you would be eyeballing with the 6, 7, or 8 pick? Are you going to go ahead and just take a draft prospect, hoping that works out? Like, this draft has been described as being kind of weak. So how do you judge, like, would I rather have the 6th pick in this draft, or would I rather trade for like a Spencer Dinwiddie or just like a guy we know is a solid NBA contributor, can be a starter? Like, how do you balance that?
Yeah, it's a really great question. I think you have to just view it in the situation and specifically to that team and say, what phase are you in the rebuilding process? A team like the Suns don't have the infrastructure yet to move forward, in my opinion. They got to continue to develop their young players, see what you have in McHale, see what you have in DeAndre Ayton. Same thing with the Bulls, Larry Market and Wendell Carter. They have Zach LaVine, who's more NBA ready now, but I want to see them kind of take this slowly. So I don't want to deal a pick for, a 28, 29-year-old that doesn't fit that time frame. The Hawks are a little different because I feel like they do have the guy out of this group in a certain extent. I mean, of course, Devin Booker in Phoenix, same effect as Trae Young, but just having that culture, having that offensive identity, maybe they can look at the picks because they have three and say, we don't need three rookies. We can trade one or two of these picks, package them for, a more established younger player. I don't know who that is. It's always hard to mix and match value in the draft, and just how the teams view these picks. That's the most important thing, is the perception of the value. So how valuable really is the 8th and 10th pick to a team? Like, it's obviously not getting you Bradley Beal, for example. So how you just have to kind of field trade calls and get a gauge of what the team takes the temperature of these picks as. So it's a difficult question just because, again, all these teams are rebuilding to a certain extent. You really have to get someone, I think, that fits in your timeline, though. That's the crucial part for me.
Yeah, I sometimes I think of the timeline thing, and then other times I think, would the Suns be benefited from finally bringing in, like a Mike Conley, like a veteran, a 32-year-old who's good, but also maybe can set that culture thing. And maybe that's all just kind of made up and intangible type things. Like, do you need a culture setter with your team? Because I know that's what the Pelicans are maybe talking about. Like, we want to have these young guys, we want to have Zion Williamson, but we want to have Drew Holiday and another veteran. So we don't just keep racking up those losses. And it's a situation where I don't know, the Eddie Curry, Tyson Chandler Bulls, where it's just young guys racking up L's, and maybe they don't develop the same way they might otherwise. When we talk about this being a weak draft or not being as strong as some other drafts, is there a standard when you're checking your notes? Do you have a objective rating system that you can easily compare from year to year? Do you just have to trust your impression of I remember that the 2018 draft was really good? How do you compare these guys year to year when they're coming in as unknowns?
For me personally, I like comparative tiers. So I like to rank guys in similar tiers based on, 3 or 4 previous years. And that kind of gives you a gauge of where the value is in this class and where the voids are. So for instance, last year I had Luka in tier 1, Jaren Jackson in tier 2. I had Trae Young in tier 3 to start that tier off. And it's not going to be the same as this year, of course, because DeAndre Ayton was tier 3 for me, 5. He would have been second probably in this class. So it's hard to do that. But to generalize, you get the idea of, for me in this class, if I would have done a comparative tier, Zion in tier 1 with Luka, I wouldn't have had anybody in tier 2 with Jaren. So that kind of gives you a gauge of where the rest of the value is in the top 5. And then really it's tier 3 where it starts for me in this class. So I have tier 1, nobody in tier 2. Tier 3, I have 4 or 5 guys relative to this class, but also relative to previous classes. And that kind of gives me a gauge. I don't like doing the whole, all-star starter fringe analysis. I just don't, it doesn't really help you that much just because there's so many range of outcomes. So for me, the tiering system just gives you a general idea of how to attack the draft value wise. So
is a guy like John Morant or RJ Barrett, are they more in a Colin Sexton range from last year, or like a Shai Gilgeous-Alexander?
Yeah, that's a great question. They're more in the Shai camp, and that's what's tough is within any class and within any year, you kind of have to tier it that way. So you tier based on the talent. So it kind of changes when you do it comparatively, right? Because the strength of one class can be so considerable that these guys move down to maybe even a tier 4 prospect in the last class. But I do think they're more in the Shai camp. I would have, RJ and Ja, above Colin Sexton, who I was lower on.
Gotcha. Are there guys in this draft, or just say, well, who's a guy in this draft that you see in a lot of mocks going pretty high, maybe lottery-wise, that you are maybe extremely low on? So who's a guy you seem to dislike more than everyone else?
That guy's probably Rui Hachimura, the forward out of Gonzaga. I just don't bet high on guys that don't have basketball feel. If you don't know how to play basketball, I'm going to dock you just because I feel like intelligence is one of the most important things with a prospect and with a guy who contributes to winning basketball. And Rui, he definitely fits a lot of what the NBA looks for in a scorer, a mismatch creator, a guy with a great frame, can really attack one-on-one off the bounce, especially against fives. Has pull-up ability in the mid-range, so he's more known for scoring, but he has a ton of defensive lapses. He's not attentive on that end. He's not the greatest switch guy. He gets kind of grouped in with this whole, he can switch 1 through 5, but he can't really do that on the fly. He's not very responsive defender, and then he's not a good decision maker on offense or a good passer. So for me, I just look at a lot of better options like a PJ Washington, Brandon Clark, those kind of guys who are just much better basketball players. They have much better feel, and Rui's the guy that I really feel like he's more of like a late first, early second round tools and kind of scoring upside play, as far as being kind of like a poor man's Jabari Parker, as far as not the type of athlete, but that kind of IQ on the floor. And those guys just kind of scare me.
I gotcha. Rui Hachimura doesn't know how to play basketball. I'm updating my file. All right. So who's the flip side of that? Is it like Brandon Clark? I know I've heard you talk actually a lot on a couple podcasts about how much you love Brandon Clark. Is he the guy you're the highest on that maybe is lower in other people's drafts?
Yeah, I think so. And he got invited to the green room, so he is, probably at the lottery top 17 selection. I have him in the top 5, so I'm definitely higher on him just with his. He's the second best functional athlete in this class, and this is a class that doesn't have a ton of high level skill, especially high level shooting. So I kind of look at who has some upside based on how hard they play on the floor and like how does their athleticism translate. He's one of the 2 best defenders in the class long term, in my opinion. Undersized, we know about the measurements, but he plays bigger than that. Speed, leaping ability is off the charts. Tested as a generational athlete at the combine, and he really knows how to play. Like, he plays the right way. He has pretty much everything I look for instinctually on the defensive end. So I'm a little higher on him. And other guys, Grant Williams out of Tennessee, fits the similar mold of a guy who really knows how to play. He's just kind of undertooled, a little bit undersized as far as height goes at 6'7.5", but incredibly functionally strong. I think Sam Vecini had this stat. He's like 93rd percentile functional strength compared to all NBA players right now. One of the best short roll bigs in the class. If he goes to a team like Portland, and can play next to Damian Lillard, I think that would be awesome. And the last one is Goga Batadze, obviously the international center, who, he's probably the best pure big in this class as far as legitimately 5-sized, can operate as a pick and pop guy, can play in pick and roll, dribble, pass, shoot a little bit, and then he's a pretty good drop defender on defense. He's not going to play in space at a high level. He has trouble changing directions, but the commonality between all of those guys, unfortunately, they're bigs, and we just had a class that had a ton of bigs, but you have to take what each draft gives you, and these guys just really know how to play basketball, and they have pretty good skill level, and they know how to play defense.
So if you have a guy like Brandon Clark in your top 5, if you theoretically were advising one of these teams in the top 5 or even like the top 8, which team do you think maybe is the best fit? Like, if you're the Cavs, you're saying just get Brandon Clark. I think he's the best guy available, and we just need to get some talent. Or would he be even higher? Like, could you try to argue, hey, Pelicans, just get this guy. He rules.
No, I would
That's
say
Pelicans at 4. Pelicans at 4, not 1. Sorry.
Yeah, I would say. I would say trade down. Just from a value perspective, I think Atlanta at 8 or 10, that makes some sense to me, as far as they actually have the ecosystem again with Trae Young already set up as the initiator. He can give Brandon Clark easier looks on offense, but I don't think the value is there for him in the top 5. Even I have him there just as like, I think he's going to be one of the 5 best players in the class at the end of the day. And this is kind of the problem with like in the vacuum big boards, is they don't really take into account value at times. So I do think that you should probably trade back and take him if you're going to do that. I just think that where he's going to go in the draft, from like 10 to 20 conservatively, I think he can return a lot of value in this class.
All right, last thing, looking at last year's class, is there a guy who maybe didn't play that much in his rookie season or didn't have the biggest breakout that you think maybe in year 2 is really going to maybe step into a bigger role? And maybe he was a guy you really liked in last year's draft, someone who didn't play as much last year who you think has a chance to blossom in year 2.
I think there's 2 guys that really stand out for me. The first guy, a lot of guys know about, of course, but he got injured, is Wendell Carter. And I think he's going to take the biggest leap if the Bulls let him play a certain way. I think his inefficiency on offense, a lot of that was geared because he's not a great post player, and he had a ton of post possessions last year. He's not like Marvin Bagley or DeAndre Ayton, where he's super explosive around the rim. He's more of a perimeter big. I think he's going to shoot the three. If they let him pick and pop, if they let him space from three, I think his efficiency is going to skyrocket. And he was already, ridiculously good on defense for a rookie. So I like him to make a leap. And then Miles Bridges is kind of the forgotten guy in Charlotte. He's not going to get a ton of national pub. He wasn't great this season, but I think his game is tailor-made for the modern NBA. He's going to shoot a ton of threes at volume, can come off movement, can attack closeouts in bigger spaces, has the strong frame. He can switch on defense. So I would really look for a vault from him. We'll see if he starts next year, but he's someone who is not going to get as much publicity as, the mainstream guys in bigger markets. And I do think that he's going to be a really effective NBA player.
He did technically, according to himself, play like ass last year with one of the great tweets when the all rookie teams came out. He's like, "Stop complaining. I was not snubbed. I played like ass." He's a great kid. Yeah. I'm a big fan. Well, Cole, I know it's a very busy week for you. I appreciate you taking time to come on the show. Everybody just go check out thestepien.com and just refresh your podcast feeds. I assume you're going to be everywhere, right?
It's going to be quite a sweat run here, but I can't complain. I don't take it for granted at all. So thanks for having me on, man. This was fun.
It was our pleasure. I look forward to talking with you again soon sometime. All right, make sure you follow Cole on Twitter, Cole Zwicker. Go to the Stepien, STEPIEN.com for some really great NBA draft analysis. His objectivity, his open-mindedness is probably my favorite draft analysis. So I hope you enjoy it. Now we're actually having a little bonus guest to respond to the epic Anthony Davis news. Friend of the show, personal friend, Daman Rangoola. Daman, unrelated to anything, what's the most short-sighted purchase you ever made?
So is this something other than student loans?
Oh, no, student loans count.
Oh, yeah, student loans.
Yeah. No, student loans are perfect. It's like, hey, man, we found out we can pay for school and we get all this stuff for free. Yeah. And then, the bill comes due. So student loans.
It really is remarkable. Like, I just look back, I'm like, oh, my God.
I got to say, Anthony Davis to the Lakers, the student loans of NBA trades. My joke, if the world is actually uninhabitable in 6 years, this is a great trade for the Lakers.
Listen, man, I don't know. Like, there's plenty of ways to look at this trade. The way I'm looking at it right now is that LeBron James and Anthony Davis are on the same team, and the more I think about the basketball side of it, it gets me like so fired up. Just like, obviously, I'm a Lakers fan, so part of this is my Lakers are contenders again. But just as a basketball fan, it's fascinating to watch. But you're right, the long-term ramifications of this have the potential to be downright hilarious.
How many games can a Anthony Davis, LeBron James, Kyle Kuzma, Trevor Ariza, and Andrew Harrison lineup win?
Well, Andrew Harrison's good for 10 wins on his own.
I gotta say, Lakers fans, Andrew Harrison on the minimum is going to be a savior. I think you guys should look deep into that. Going to be a savior. No, what you say is correct. As a basketball fan, I am excited about Anthony Davis and LeBron James playing together. I think the price is prohibitive, and then the filling out the roster, a task that the Lakers failed at last year when they had more flexibility, and to trust like Pelinka, like, oh yeah, he can thread the needle here. He can do it. He could do it.
Oh, you don't trust Kurt Rambis and Jason Kidd, fielding recommendations for who Pelinka should sign? That doesn't sound promising to you?
It doesn't sound amazing. So this is funny because I made the joke on Twitter last summer. It was, how do you do free agency badly in a summer you still got LeBron? And they pulled it off. And it turns out, they actually kind of screwed up everything else. And so now it's how do you get Anthony Davis and still maybe lose the trade? And it seems like Lakers fans, they're still pretty fired up, which I guess is like the way you have to take it. And maybe this works out great. Maybe this open title window for one season, if you can have a 10% chance of winning it, you go for it. I even listened to the Lakers Film Room podcast to get their reaction because I feel like they're pretty level-headed. They were too optimistic for my takes. They were like, hey, it was a heavy price. It was a heavy price, but we had to do it anyway. To tell me where you were when the first Woj bomb broke, or was it was it a ShamWow? I can't even remember now. But
it was a Woj bomb because I was getting ready. I was actually leaving to meet up with some friends. We were just gonna hang out. And I was in my car and I got the Woj alert, and I was like, holy. You guys curse. I was like, holy crap. But I was like, I stopped. I got out of my car. I got back inside the house because now I needed Wi-Fi because I was going to be on Twitter for a long time.
You got to be on Twitter. I understand that.
Right.
I got to pull the car over. I got to tweet.
Scrolling. And I literally, and this is pathetic, but I mean, we're like such nuts about basketball, and everybody listening is such nuts about basketball. You can relate to this. I canceled my plans, and I was just like, I gotta just, this is my like next 4 hours, and that's what it was. It was just scrolling, getting more details. The initial, honestly, there was a like relief initially because this has been going on since like the deadline, and it's exhausting. Like we'd been. The phrase leverage had been used so much over the last like few weeks about who has leverage, who has this, are the Celtics involved, or is this team involved? Is there going to be a dark horse team involved? Like there's just all this stuff going on. And I really was exhausted. Like I couldn't do it anymore. And so there was relief that it was done. And then it started sinking in like the extent to which the Lakers really just went all in on this deal. It's still not clear to me who the competition was. Like, it's not clear to me who the second best offer for the Pelicans was. I'm a huge David Griffin fan. Like, I really, really, really wanted the Lakers to hire him, and he earned his money here.
Yeah, the who had the second best offer question. It's similar to the Sixers Tobias Harris trade. We were like, wow, that was a really big tab you guys just paid for Tobias Harris. Who was coming in with anything close to that? So where were you when the pick details broke? Because I was at a party when the trade broke, and I was looking at my phone, and my wife was like, as she one of her go-to pet phrases is, "Hey, big trade." Like she's being sarcastic as I'm looking at my phone, and I was like, "Yes, I'm going to go stand in the corner for a little bit." But then I was back home when I finally saw like the news of all the unprotected picks and the reverse protection on the 2021 pick, and then the possible deferment of a pick when LeBron James is 41 years old. And I was like, oh my God, this is a steep, risky price. So when you got all the news of the exact details of those pick swaps and the trades, where were you, and then what was that feeling like?
This was me pulled over. So I was driving to like get dinner, and I kept like pulling over every time I'd see a good spot, like a good plaza or something. I'd like, maybe I can pull over here and just to see what's going on. We had there's like some of us have a Lakers group chat on Twitter, and it's very active. So I kept on going to that, and just because they were updating like kind of in real time, just sharing tweets and freaking out about them one after the other. And yeah, it still quite hasn't sunk into me just like how many years down the line, like we're going to have to keep paying for Anthony Davis here. But I mean, it comes down to one thing and one thing only, really. And this is honestly has me freaked out because these are the kind of details that the Lakers have not exactly nailed in the last few years. But all that matters to me, and this is, yes, it's a spoiled Laker fan thing, but also if you think about it, the only way this deal actually works out like as a win-win is if they have space for a third max player and they can sign a third max guy.
Mm-hmm. And so they've might have screwed up the timing and maybe can't get a third max, or at least a third full max player, because there's all this weirdness, this salary cap kind of specifics of they needed to trade the fourth round, or the first round pick this season, the number 4 pick. They need to sign that person and then trade them, and you can't trade him until 30 days have elapsed. That's the way to get the most max salary cap space. And it doesn't seem like that's going to happen because that would go a month into free agency and would mean the Pelicans couldn't really sign anybody. So that doesn't seem ideal.
Here's my uninformed speculation about this, and also why, despite all these reports, there hasn't really been a clarification from either side on what the terms are. I think that this point is relatively fluid, and if the Lakers are able to secure a third max, they have a sort of handshake agreement with the Pelicans in place, a contingency. So, by the way, already I'm giving like a lot more credit to them than I should.
It's very optimistic, but I like it.
But I think that there will be maybe an additional minimum player that the Lakers have or something like that will be sent out in exchange for the Pelicans waiting until July 30th.
Mm-hmm.
And if the Lakers aren't able to secure a third max and they're fine just rolling into whatever cap space they have, then they will execute the trade the first time possible, which is July 6th. So at earliest, this trade can be consummated on July 6th. And then otherwise, if they wait the 30 days, like you mentioned about signing the draft pick, that'll be July 30th. I think the difference between this and that is if the Lakers are able to secure the third max, they will send the Pelicans additional compensation, in the margins. And the only reason I'm relatively confident about this is because, I shouldn't say confident. Why I feel like this is because there's really been no clarification. There's been a lot of confusion about it. Woj was on TV yesterday saying it'll happen on July 6th definitively. Then he tweeted walking it back a little bit saying they can still, there's still possible room for the negotiation here. I think that if the Lakers my initial reaction was to freak out about it because this front office has basically scarred me and I will never trust them.
Sure.
But just more that I think about it and I've sort of getting out of the Twitter anger chamber. The more I think about it, if the Lakers are able to get an agreement from, we'll talk about this later, but somebody like Kawhi or Kyrie, I think that they will be able to make that happen.
Okay, so let's talk about it now. I feel like the Kawhi Leonard thing is a pipe dream, but maybe not. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe they can find the money to pay a Kawhi max and he's coming. But even if it's Kyrie or if it's anybody else, if the Lakers have those three max guys, they literally will have a roster of like 7 minimum salary guys. And that just seems wild. Like you might luck out that a veteran. I have my eye on Costa Kufos, maybe he'll play for the minimum, but you're not going to look out on probably more than one or two. So what is your shopping list or your best case scenario for how you want that money to be used? Is it Kyrie Irving? Is it second place Kemba Walker? And at what point do you break off and think, you know what, we should probably just see how many like $6 to $10 million guys we can fit into that cap space as opposed to having one max guy?
Right. So this is naturally what I've been thinking about. Like this is the defining factor of how this Lakers team will be able to contend. I also think that, due to the unfortunate sort of situation in Golden State with the injuries and all that, we're going to have to sort of adjust what we think a contender is. Whoever wins the title next year.
By the way, Daman, I got to say, it's honestly hilarious to hear every Lakers person's always say the unfortunate injuries. All right, guys, we can all agree people getting hurt is bad. That's not a controversial moral take. But the fact that these are good competitively, though, for like Lakers fans, every other fan, Blazers fans, Nuggets fans. Right, but it's funny. Right. Everyone has to say like, but due to the unfortunate injuries. But okay, now go ahead.
I still think so. There are 3 people that I would be willing to just call the third max guy and then sort of go minimum after that. It would be Kawhi at the top. And as you mentioned, it's a pipe dream, of course. Kawhi at the top. And then 2 people I put in the same tier for different reasons that they can bring to the table would be Kyrie Irving and Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is somebody actually I've changed my mind on a lot. Mm-hmm. The more I look back at his career, like he was upset in Chicago because they were still featuring Derrick Rose, even though Jimmy Butler was better at the time. And in Minnesota, like it's not like he was wrong about Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. Our quibble with him is always that he seems to get it. He seems to let's say be too honest and be too open about everything. But as a big game player, he really showed me something in Philadelphia. Like, he was ready for the moment. I was very impressed by him. So I think those two guys, Kyrie, obviously we know what he's done with LeBron, and the Lakers don't have any guards right now. So I don't know how far you can get with Alex Caruso. Kemba Walker, for me, I just have never. I respect him a lot, obviously, but I don't see him. I would not want to commit that to him. So that's where I would cut it off. I'd say those three guys, and then after that, I would much rather just go, really good role players, like you said, $6 to $10 million players who can fill out the roster competently. We saw what the Raptors did. Like, they had 7 players that they relied on, but they were all really good, and they were all able to rise up to the moment in different ways. So that's the way I would go about it.
Yeah, I think I would do a thing where I'd be like, all right, guys, I call up some agents, be like, hey, I have $7 million. Like, whoever says yes first gets it. And then I'm like, Trevor Ariza, Rudy Gay, Danny Green, like, right. Go. Or right, like, do you can Rich Paul call up KCP and be like, hey, buddy, you're making $5 million this year. You're making $5 million. And he's like,
oh, so I actually, yeah. So KCP is a fun thing. Like, KCP, the Lakers fans, we just want him gone so badly, but now because he's been with the team for 2 years. So if they sign him to something like the room exception, they can then next year they'll have his full bird rights, and he's actually now he's now like a valuable part of this team because you need him,
right?
And because how else are you going to build this team? So yeah, I absolutely believe KCP's back. And I actually want him back now rather than, I was ready to jettison him out of town. I want him back for that reason. Somebody like Rajon Rondo, I really don't want him back. But sure. I think now the situation you're in, you're like, listen, if we don't have to sort of dip into our cap space anymore and we can bring you back, I might have to say, let's just do it.
So here's my shopping list for the Lakers. I've actually put some thought into this. You call up some veteran centers. I have a list of whoever is cheapest of Costa Koufos, Kyle O'Quinn, Rashawn Holmes. Maybe you get lucky. Maybe Robin Lopez wants to play for not much. But anyway, hopefully get one of those guys, fortify the back line. I'm gonna see if Dwayne Dedmon is available. I'm gonna use some of my cap space on Dwayne Dedmon. I'm thinking I think Dwayne Dedmon would be a great fit. It worries me that he doesn't play 82 games. I feel like the Lakers are going to need guys who play 82 games.
By the way, side note.
Yep.
You know who else doesn't really play 82 games?
Anthony Davis and LeBron James. Yeah. No, I'm aware. I am shorting. I'm like David Griffin. I am shorting the Lakers' future. Oh, by the way, you and me, we lost some money together on the Memphis Grizzlies. Over under. The Lakers over under next year, 54.5.
Ooh.
I would like to bet hard on the under. I'd like to double down on my Grizzlies losses.
54.5.
They're not going to win 55 games next year.
I don't know, man. I've been seeing a lot of Instagrams of Kawhi Leonard's cousins.
Oh, that's right.
I've gone down the wildest rabbit holes, man. I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
Oh, let me go. All right, so I'm gonna go back to my shopping list. Then I'm begging. I'm hoping with $10 million combined, I can get Darren Collison and Ish Smith. Okay.
Okay.
I'm saying Darren Collison. Hey,
I like Darren Collison.
I'm saying come on. Well, Ish Smith is my backup. Alex Caruso, he's still there, but I think Darren Collison, he might miss some games, but he's got that UCLA connection. We sell him on that, and now depending on how it goes, maybe we have Trevor Ariza. Maybe we have Koufos or Rashawn Holmes. Maybe we have Darren Collison and Smith. And I think, or also, if we have Dwayne Dedmon, now we're real bargain shopping again. Maybe trying to find any kind of shooter or any kind of like cheaper guy. Your Austin Rivers, your Trey Burks, that kind of not awesome stuff.
By the way, I would love Austin Rivers. He is way better than people think he is.
Yeah, no, I mean you might be able to get him. I'm not even joking about Andrew Harrison being my minimum salary guy. He could play.
Look at you trying to get all these Grizzlies rings after Marc Gasol.
Oh man, I already had a Grizzlies championship parade this morning. it was awesome. One part of me wonders if like doing a big money offer, like would JJ Redick come for 1 year for $12 million, and then do like Redick for 12. Ariza for 8. Your team is super old at this point, and then maybe Darren Collison for the room. So then you at least have like a starting lineup you can kind of get excited about. And then of course I think you guys like have to keep Reggie Bullock. If Reggie Bullock will stay, for like that $4 or $5 million, right, then I think you have a very good, like an extremely good team next year. Very thin, but at least like I can get behind this and be like, all right, they might win 55 games, but. I don't see.
I'm looking at. Yeah. So I'm looking at this as the first year of the Heatles. Obviously the biggest.
So no title. No title.
How dare you? The biggest difference is that LeBron James is like 10 years older now. So yeah, I mean we need to be careful about how long this sort of process will go. But if you look at the minutes played for that year, I looked it up this morning. I knew we were going to talk. So after the big three, you had Mario Chalmers, James Jones, Joel Anthony, Big Z, Carlos Arroyo.
All those dudes are available, by the way.
Eddie House, right? So it's like there are going to be moments this season due to injury or rest or whatever that we're going to look at the lineup and be like, what the hell? Who are these guys? Right? I fully expect that to happen this season. This year is all about capitalizing on and you can joke about this, the unfortunate situation in Golden State.
Yeah. It's terrible.
This is just, you have LeBron James, you have Anthony Davis, and fingers crossed about a third max, and just let's go out there. Like it's not going to take the same thing it took to win a championship the last 5 years. It's going to be different this year. This season's going to feel really different. And then after that, then you have, the Lakers still, despite giving away all their picks, they're still going to have their first rounder next year. They're going to have the mid-level exception. So you can start fielding a real roster starting next season.
Oh, so they should tank this season. I like it. They should tank this season. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, listen, last season they tanked. They tried to do well and they tanked. So
right,
let's keep this going.
No, the Pelicans tried to do well and they ended up with the first and the fourth pick. So
yeah, look at them.
Works out.
I'm excited for the Pelicans, man. That's just my number one league pass team. I'm excited that people will start having to acknowledge that Brandon Ingram and Lonzo Ball are good. Mm-hmm. It's gonna be enjoyable. Like I joked about it on Twitter, but it's like every Laker player who leaves the Lakers organization, their perception increases by like 150%.
What are the examples? I mean, Brooke Lopez, I guess but he was used and went to a good team.
Okay, D'Angelo Russell.
Okay. Are you ready for the reunion?
Oh, that'd be.
I mean,
listen.
If y'all only have $23 million in salary cap room, that should be able to get it done. You should be able to take that, I think.
This is me being a total dick. I'm good.
That's the right answer, man. You can't have D'Angelo Russell out on that. You need some stoppers on this team.
Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. LeBron James isn't stopping anybody. Kyle Kuzma sure as hell isn't stopping anybody, and you can't rely on Anthony Davis to do that, in a regular season February game when we need him, ready to go for the playoffs.
What did Kuzma do to stay? Is it true he has the most Mamba mentality? Is that why?
By the way, I was so pissed off when I heard that quote, but at the same time, it's 100% believable that that's how they went about it.
Oh yeah, no, definitely.
Like Kyle Kuzma, like if you go back through his Instagram and social media and stuff like that, you see pictures of him at dinner with Jeannie Buss.
Yeah.
He represented the team at the draft. He's always talking about Kobe. He's wearing Kobe shoes. He had a Kobe shirt. Like this guy played it perfectly. If you want to learn how to stick around at your place of employment, just like follow Kyle Kuzma's career plan since he got into the NBA, and you'll do great in your career.
All right, so we know they're going to have a very thin team. They might get a third max guy. I guess that like the Kyrie Irving is that's still a long shot. It seems like Brooklyn is definitely the favorite there. Yeah. Like Kemba Walker, you don't think it's a great idea. I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know what the odds are of him going there. I'm a little worried they're going to like splurge on like a Derrick Rose and DeMarcus Cousins. So I'm nervous about all these things, but you're still, are you under on that 54.5 for the Lakers this coming season? Or are you over? I'm looking at a couple other futures too, but
so I'm over for one reason.
Okay,
for one reason.
All right.
I think that this season has pretty much shown that the West is weaker than we thought in general. I think, by the way, we should. I've been thinking about this, and I don't know. Like, I gotta formulate this thought more clearly, but I think we need to give LeBron way more credit for kind of seeing the big picture, because I really think that he saw the East, just getting crazy strong like it was this year, and he saw an opening in the West potentially. Like, he probably knew what was going to happen in Golden State in terms of he probably expected Kevin Durant to leave and all this stuff. Like, I really think that that's how he thinks. And when I look back, last year I was confused about. I was really excited why LeBron came, but after Paul George decided not to come, I was still confused about why he decided to come to LA. I really think that he probably saw this opening, and I don't know. It's fascinating because I really don't think it's going to take much. I'm saying this relative to what we've seen in the past. I don't think it's going to take much to win the West this year. I'm telling you.
I'm sorry. I'm speechless. That was the wildest revisionist Lakers take I've ever heard in my whole life. LeBron James, who made the finals 8 straight years in the East, goes to the West, misses the playoffs, but did it because he foresaw a future opening that the West might become an easier path to the title. Light years. That was truly astounding. So it has been compared to the Billy King Brooklyn Nets to the Celtics trade. Obviously, the Lakers are getting a 26-year-old, top 5 in the NBA talent,
and not taking on bad salary.
But they're not taking on bad salary. But there's almost more. There's a little higher ceiling to the pick situation that the Pelicans are getting because of the specific 2021 reverse protection. It has to be top 8. If you don't want it, you get it the next year unprotected. And the same thing with that deferment later, again, when LeBron James is 41 and playing for the Warriors in 2023 or 4, that is. Anyway, so those Brooklyn Nets, after they did their trade, they ended up winning 8 playoff games total in the next 5 seasons. Over under, the Lakers win 8 playoff games in the next 5 seasons. Damon, I assume you're over.
Get out of here. Relax. Way over.
What's your number?
Let me tell you something.
Where would you set the number?
For the next 5
The next
years?
5 seasons, total number of playoff victories.
Okay.
50?
Let's say the next 2 years.
Are they making the second round?
Oh, you're out of your damn mind. I'm excited to listen to this one in like 2 years. So for the next 5 years,
yeah.
Let's go for it. Let's say 45.
I will. Let's cut that in half. Let's make it 25, and I'll bet you whatever you want.
So you know what? So here's the thing. Like we are all. I mean, I'm guilty of this too. Like, believe me, if you go through my tweets and stuff like that, like I have not been super celebratory because I do see everything you're talking about. I do think that life isn't fair, and the Lakers are proof of that.
Sure.
In a positive way, right?
Yeah.
And so they for Rob Pelinka, for Kurt Rambis, for these guys, like this is it. Like they this next 2 years they're gonna go all in. They're gonna try to win the championship. But what we forget is they are going to have Anthony Davis in his prime. He's only 26 years old. They're going to sign him to a 5-year deal or 4-year deal, whatever, next year. And they, as of right now, still don't have bad money on the books. They have $5 million going to Luol Deng, but after that, it's not like They put themselves in salary cap hell. Let's see how it goes. If they sign a third max, I'm even more confident. Like, I know that this is very, very inefficient organizational sort of management of assets. We started the call talking about who's actually their best second offer, but at the same time, we've been playing this game with the Celtics for all this time, and at some point, you have to stop winning trades and start winning games, right? And so part of this is Anthony Davis is a top X player, whatever you want to say, top 7 player, go for it, right? Top 7 player in his prime, available in a trade. You go out and do it. And I think it's very rare in NBA history where a player in his prime is available like this. And so you sort of have to throw out all the logical, one-to-one calculating assets, and you just go for it. And so, yes, we will look back at this possibly and look at like, oh my God, the Lakers are stuck in hell for the next 3 years and Anthony Davis is asking for a trade and all that. But it'll be revisionist history to say they shouldn't have done it.
Yeah, it's interesting where I think, again, I think the Lakers have a chance to be quite good this season. But like I have worries just about LeBron James too, and like I really like LeBron James. I'm not a LeBron James hater at all. Like I really like LeBron James, but I'm worried. Like, is he going to be excellent in 2 years? Maybe he transitions into that like excellent phase of his career. But I'm worried it's going to be Anthony Davis now all by himself, which is good. Like to be able to transfer to get another superstar is great for the Lakers, but it just seems so risky to have so much tied up in this that I worry it's going to be a little bit of short-term success and then a lot of maybe long-term failure. But again, I mean, we do like to say that things work out for the Lakers. That is ignoring that it's been, 7 years? 6 years? No playoffs? I can't remember. But things haven't gone great the last little stretch.
But I mean, they effectively had a traditional rebuild until LeBron came.
Yeah.
Right? And then when LeBron came, they lost their minds. But guess what? We are going to find out like if it was actually just Magic Johnson just, kind of doing whatever he wanted, or was it, Rob Pelinka has an opportunity here to separate himself from the disaster that last summer was by going in the opposite direction, making smart signings, signing shooters. Like beyond everything, Rob Pelinka has the most to sort of gain reputation wise out of anybody involved in this situation. And he can possibly start redeeming himself. And if they don't make stupid decisions now, like trading for DeMar DeRozan or something, I don't even know like what that would be, right? But it's like if we don't make those kinds of moves, I can, I'm more optimistic about this not being a bad decision. But I see everything. Like I think that we will look back. There will be a dark stretch of like 3 years where we look back at this trade and say, okay, well, that's why we're in this situation. We were in that situation after the Lakers title teams and, Kobe started getting hurt. That was a disaster because we had nothing to really build around. And it was a dark time. But we at least conceptually understood that for years and years, the Lakers were all in for titles. They won 5 titles since 2000. Like this is just what their MO was. And we understood where it came from. So now if we head to a dark period, we will at least understand and expect the Lakers to contend for the next 2 years. And so, yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I stand.
Yeah. What are the odds the Pelicans take Bronny James Jr. in the 2024 draft using the Lakers' own draft pick?
Oh man, that would be so delicious. Listen, if Twitter's still around then, and we're not on like a 4th Trump presidency, that'll be a banner day on Twitter. It'll
be good. And I guess finally, what are the odds the next CBA has a Pelinka rule that forbids you from sending unprotected picks and swaps in 3 consecutive seasons?
Let's say 94%.
That's great. Daman, thanks for your time, buddy. Everything going well with you?
Everything's great, man. I'm excited about this offseason.
That's good. Appreciate it, buddy. Look forward to talking with you again soon.
Sir.
All right, thanks to Daman for being a swell sport as always. Make sure you follow him on Twitter at DAMANR, at Damon R. He's very, very funny. Very, very funny Lakers fan. You should enjoy him. All right, thanks to Cole. Thanks to Daman. Remember, Grizzlies draft party in Nashville on Thursday at the Mainstay at 6 p.m. Your first drink is free. Our TeePublic shirts are going on sale on Wednesday. That's at teepublic.com/user/fastbreakbreakfast. All of our old shirts, the How's It Going shirt, the Tibbs Ice Scream shirt, the John Wick shirts, the Boban shirts, everything will be, I believe, $13. Everything's 35% off. So if you want to get some stuff there, teepublic.com/user/fastbreakbreakfast, the very memorable URL. All right, you guys are the best. Thanks for listening. And remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G&G. Fast break, man. You understand?